Hey everyone, so today I wanted to talk about how does it feel to have lived in Columbus for the last 2 years. So for full transparency, when I moved to Columbus, it was a whirlwind of parties and going out, and my older brother came with me, and everything was just amazing, right? My uncle was taking us out. He took me out for my birthday. We went to all different types of clubs that I didn't even remember, to be honest. And in February of 2021, which was roughly a full year, I decided to go into the Army. And with that, I was in Oklahoma, then I was in Texas for about 8 months before leaving the Army and coming back to Columbus. So roughly, I was in Columbus now for a year. Since then, since September 2021 to basically it's now October. Well, it's November now of 2022. So with that full experience, I got to revisit some of the places that I was at. I had to really, in the first year, I was fighting emotions to go back to New York City. Every single month, I really wanted to go back to New York, and it wasn't because I was homesick, because I was in college previously, so I got used to feeling homesick. I got used to being away from family. None of that really affected me anymore. So what really affected me was basically, just wanting to be closer to everything, wanting to live a full life. I felt like Columbus was more so a settled down state where, it's for older people who are literally just trying to settle down and get married and have children and babies. So for me, in terms of fun, it wasn't that, but in terms of financial security, in terms of achieving more, it did allow me to do that because I purchased a house prior to going to the Army. When I came back, I didn't have a house to live in, so I purchased another one. I was able to get two houses with under 3% interest rates. And now with inflation well above 8%, the longer it lasts, the cheaper it is for me to own these homes in the long term, right? Because if inflation is at 8%, wages need to increase, housing demand will go down, because inflation, the interest rates are so high. Property values will cut. However, the affordability of those homes will still be higher than what I purchased at. And because of that, that's going to allow me to pay off my homes quicker with more cheaper dollars, right? I'm paying a debt that is less than 3%, whereas inflation is 8-9%. And if that continues for, let's say, the next 5 years, I could see myself paying off my home in 11 to 15 years easily. And so I already had a goal of maybe paying off one of them in seven years, and the next one in 3 years after that. And so, inflation in this regard helps. And I do want to, be empathetic to those who may have been looking to purchase a home for the first time. And because of these rates, it really just killed their ability to buy in this market and save and get what they really wanted. And so, sometimes you do get lucky. Sometimes you do just make the right decisions. The decision for me to buy was I didn't want to rent for $1,200 a month when I could have a mortgage for $700. And then when I came back from the Army, I actually took out a mortgage that was roughly almost $1,200 a month. So I went back to the same thing. But again, I'm now living in a home that I own rather than renting something for that same amount. I was a lot happier with that. And then, of course, if you know anything about my story, basically when I purchased my first house, I paid 1 month. And since then, my tenant has paid that house off for me for the last 2 years. And when it comes to this house that I currently live in, I've paid 0 months of my mortgage because I have two roommates that pay my mortgage. And with doing the math, I've already gotten my equity from the first property. I haven't really done the math on the second property yet. I believe it was supposed to take me 3 years, but the fact that I'm living for free for a whole year now, in October 2022 that just passed, makes it a year in that home. Let's say with $1,200 a month, that was at least $14,000 a year or so. It would take roughly, let's say, 2 years for me to get my down payment back because I put 10% down on both of these properties. So that gives you an idea of how much I actually paid for the second property. But roughly, all in all, putting 10% down on both of these properties, I was probably all in on both properties at right around $50,000. It almost sounds crazy to say that because the most I've ever seen in my savings account was 40,000, right around there, right? I'm not talking about my stock market investment or anything like that, which is significantly higher, but just what you might carry over in your savings account and stuff like that. And what I see now with all these rent payments and stuff like that, I'm changing topics a little bit, but the amount of money that's just in my checkings account every month is ridiculous. I couldn't have even imagined that a few years ago, right? I'm almost touching $10,000 a month in my checkings account just between work and rental payments. And so moving to Columbus gave me a stability that I wouldn't have had in New York. Maybe I would have purchased one property. Maybe I would have, had a nice house in New Jersey or something. But I wouldn't have been a landlord. I wouldn't have the investment knowledge that I have now. I wouldn't have the job that I have now, which I'm super, super grateful for. There's just so many things that transpired throughout my life that I'm just so happy for. It made me mature even more just because of, where I'm at in life. Like, I can literally settle down. I can have a family if I want. These things, change your thought process a little bit from just having fun and running around to maybe looking at people more seriously, like, how do you add to my life and what value do you bring, right? So it almost changes your mindset, leaving that New York City mentality where you're a crab in a barrel. You can't really get out. You don't know what to do next. All you're trying to do is increase your income so you're not worried about nothing else. And then most of the people are trying to leave and go to Pennsylvania, Philly, wherever, and Maryland, Florida, Texas. And so it's really, really difficult to, have a idea of what you want to do when you're constantly running around and trying to get things taken care of. So Ohio allowed me the ability to pause everything because, it was a one step at a time, and it seemed like it would take a lot longer than it did, right? It took me about 8 to 10 months to buy my first property. Then it took another 8 to 10 months to buy the second one. And then within this time, 8 to 10 months, I've been saving money. And, I really wanted to buy that third property before interest rates went higher than 6%. But sellers weren't lowering their prices to where I was comfortable to buy at that time. And so there was no deal to be made between me and those sellers, which was unfortunate, but I know that my time will come again when rates start to go back down and prices are still pretty low. And that's when I'm going to try to seep into the game with a lot more cash to buy whatever I want to buy. And so, Columbus has literally shifted my mindset in terms of being a landlord once again, in terms of valuing different types of relationships. and getting the most out of not only myself but out of people. And so I'm definitely grateful. It took over a year for me to adjust to living in Columbus, but now that I'm here, I really don't have a want to live anywhere else, because I know that I'm going to continue to prosper and flourish financially here. And that's what's really important right now for me, especially because I'm so young. And so I hope that that helps a little bit in understanding uh, my thought process in the last 2 years, and why I still choose to live in Columbus, Ohio. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.